I mean, I have never been this enthusiastic about anything the way he is about chemistry.
Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah.
When he's looking in a microscope, you would think he was winning the Super Bowl. Oh my God, there you see what's in this microscope? No, I don't. And also the music video does not show me what's in that microscope.
No, he's just like, Eureka, I have found it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, music time is here. That's right, we're talking about Ozzy Osbourne's Bark at the Moon on Kill by Kill's Kill the Rock Star. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet's your old pal Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the rural English, did I just say English? English countryside. Oh, Jesus. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where normally we talk about horror movie characters in the order in which they die, but in our off weeks, we struggle to come up with some form of content that we will find interesting to talk about, and we've decided to tear apart music videos that are either slightly horror related or killed a rock star's career. This week, we're discussing something that launched a solo career, Ozzy Osbourne's Bark at the Moon, and the hopes that a very confused scientist's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at his expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust that if I start just downing flasks of whatever, she'll send me off to the loony bin. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I'm just standing here, like tenderly waving at you from the asylum as you walk away with your good lady.
But you're covered in hair going, bye-bye, lady, bye-bye, God.
Exactly.
It's just, if you wanted a music video where Ozzy Osbourne turned into Animal from the Muppets, this is the music video for you. You just don't anticipate that him being all furry is going to make him Animal, but it really does happen. He looks like Animal who hasn't gone to a barber lately.
Yeah, he's like Animal with like hippie hair.
What is your relationship to Ozzy Osbourne, the man, the myth, the legend?
Well, I never really went through like a metal phase, like where I grew up, because I grew up in a sort of rural area of southern New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So like metal was kind of a big thing in my school. Mm-hmm. Again, I liked like Guns N' Roses and stuff like that, but like I never really cared for the music. I always loved the videos though. The videos always amused me because you knew that, somewhere in like Iowa or something, there's like somebody's mom is watching them and like doing that like Jim Gaffigan, I don't like how this looks at all.
This scientist is just drinking whatever is in his lab and becoming a werewolf.
He's just drinking that Satan juice.
He should go to that asylum. That might help him. Why are they strapping him to that chair?
Exactly.
I also never really went through a metal phase. I don't care for it. And it's not a judgment. It just, like my problem with dragons, my brain just shuts off. There's not a lot I enjoy about it. I have come along on Black Sabbath, though. I think Black Sabbath is more interesting to me.
Oh, and yeah, and Iron Man, that's a banger. You can't deny that.
Yeah. And it's I think more musically interesting. I don't like the show-offy nature of the musicality of heavy metal.
I do love that this song has like four different guitar solos.
Yeah,
it's like 5 minutes long and 4.5 minutes guitar solo.
It really is. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I'll give it that. And nothing against people who obviously have great affection for Ozzy's output and whatnot. It just, for whatever reason, it doesn't work for me. That's no judgment on it. And it never has. I did not, about the closest I ever got to it was, I do enjoy Def Leppard, but I would say that is primarily pop music with a heavy metal sheen to it.
Yeah, I would think that I think a lot of metal fans would be more than happy to tell you that like Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, like that's like the metal that girls listen to.
Yeah,
because it showed up on like pop radio, and generally Ozzy did not show up on pop radio except maybe in the late 80s when he I think there was that song No More Tears.
Yeah, that was
a
ballad
yeah, oh, the one that was that seemed to be like encouraging people to commit suicide pacts.
Yeah. Yeah, like, hey, things are tough. You might want to take this exit ramp.
Like, well, there was the, and of course, like, you know, not to go too off the track, but, you know, my amusement and fascination with metal music and metal videos is also related to the fact that I am deeply fascinated by the whole, the original, the new one's not as much fun, but the original Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
And so that's a subject I could go long on for hours and hours and hours. I read a lot of stuff on it. I watched a lot of stuff on it. And of course I remember it because, you know, we were like preteens when the first Satanic Panic happened. And so, as most people will know, he was you know, a prime target for people who, you know, insisted that heavy metal encouraged young people to commit suicide. And he had a song called Suicide Solution, which, if you actually read the lyrics, seem to be against it. But but people, like, you know, said, oh, well, you know, he's saying that the solution to your problems is committing suicide. And the funny thing is, later on, he records this power ballad with, I think it was Lita Ford, which is definitely, you know, from the viewpoint of a couple who is considering engaging in a murder-suicide pact.
Right. It's almost to me like heavy metal's Juliet, you know, Romeo and Juliet.
Right, except they're both like 35.
Yes. Yes, they're both a little too old for it. He's got at least 7 years on her. She looks great for her age. And you know, she's got aerobic G-string on. And that's great. You know, no shade, but again, none of that shit ever did anything for me. It's just like something I suffered through because I just wanted to watch MTV. I don't have any reverence for it. And so when I go back to watch some of this stuff, I'm just sort of amazed at anyone thinking it's serious, because it is no more serious than an Adam Ant.
That's what I like. I think they're charming. I think it's I think they're kind of cute in a way, you know. I mean, you got, you know, Ozzy acting his little heart out, you know, like he's being dragged into an asylum, like, you know, that isn't just a Tuesday for him.
Yeah, you know, a music video is starting strong when you see death represented by just a guy with his face painted white. Like, oh boy, we're trying, everybody. So I don't, like, my references to Ozzy Osbourne was like, this is what my next door neighbor listened to.
Right. And it's just funny that, like, you know, we remember the scary Ozzy, he bites the heads off of animals. And then, like, but for most people now, for younger people, their cultural touchstone is him playing this sort of, you know, doddering father on reality television.
Yeah, emphasis on the doddering.
Right.
And whereas here, he's like this just grinning skull with a wig on.
Yeah, he's leaning into everybody thinks I'm scary.
Yes. And, you know, I bit the head off a dove just because I was drunk off my ass and wanted to cause a stir. Like, it's all it is him trying to reclaim any level of cultural cachet in a post Sex Pistols world. Because for a while there, he is absolutely like the sort of British, you know, man of darkness, you know, Satan worshiper, as
oh
it
yeah,
were.
people were like, parents were terrified of him. It was like the two names you did not want to invoke were Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest.
Right. And at least Judas Priest had the, you know, the queer edge to them. Ozzy Osbourne is as straight as they come, unfortunately. And so what does he have? He has like, let me, you know, bite the head off this dove at a record party and then recreate it night after night like I'm Alice Cooper with a bat on stage and people think it's real. All of it is just kind of like, how do I show people I'm still big and bad when at its core, this music video, if you replaced him with Benny Hill, you would not know the difference.
Yeah, it's like basically Benny Hill does Hammer horror.
Right. And you know, as far as a story goes, I'm not sure it has one. You almost get the feeling that they're riffing in a room like, all right, what's your idea for the start of this music video? And I was like, golf funeral. Well, wait a second, is that every funeral, Ozzy? Not the way I do it.
I just go laboratory, drink stuff. Well, I don't know, fucking werewolf
I mean,
or something.
I have never been this enthusiastic about anything the way he is about chemistry.
Oh yeah, he's like, yeah.
When he's looking in a microscope, you would think he was winning the Super Bowl. Oh my God, there, you see what's in this microscope? No, I don't. And also the music video does not show me what's in that microscope.
No, he's just like, Eureka, I have found it.
And I, as a professional writer, I know next to nothing about science. It just feels like Dr. Osbourne, because he did go to 6 years of heavy metal doctor school, is missing a few steps when it comes to experimentation, because he has been working on whatever is in that flask that he drinks for like 20 seconds. And he's like, and drinks it immediately, just swallows it whole, but immediately reaches for his throat. Like, this wasn't what I was expecting. What did you think would fucking happen? There's no science going on here.
Well, you think that it's going to be a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, but nope.
Yes.
He's drinking werewolf juice.
Yeah, I mean, it is playing pretty. It is confused about what exactly horror icon is trying to evoke, because you're setting up Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and what you're giving me is werewolf juice. And the lab assistant is like, well, I've seen enough.
It's time for lunch.
First of all, not participating in this. Secondly, I did not sign up to be a werewolf assistant. And his version of a werewolf, which I know is evoking the album cover art, is decidedly shaggy. It's practically Yeti-esque. It's the kind of werewolf who would finish off your pizza from the fridge without asking. It's not like you were really going to heat it up yourself, but it would have been nice if you had asked first, Garth.
Like I say, he kind of is a little like it's sort of. I feel sort of like he inspired the design for Teen Wolf.
Yes. I do wonder. Now, this, weirdly enough, talk about odd confluences. We've been doing this long enough to have these weird, not quite well-known tropes re-center themselves time and time again. And one of them is that Rick Baker made a lot of fucking werewolves out of rock stars in 1983. Did you know that Rick Baker designed and applied the werewolf makeup for this music video?
I feel like I did know that, but kind of like that like, maybe I knew that, but
it sounds so true.
It does. Yeah.
It's
like even if it wasn't true, I would believe you.
Yes. There's a level of competence to it.
Oh, it looks,
that belies all the other incompetence of the rest of the music.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's just, it goes for a really like, this is not a sexy werewolf. This is not like a this werewolf is giving me strange feelings werewolf.
Yes. And it's not like what he did for Michael Jackson, which was he didn't want to be a werewolf. He wanted to be a were creature, but he wanted it to be different so that he stood apart. And here, Ozzy's like, I want a werewolf who needs a haircut. And he's like, I can do that.
Yeah, you don't get the the transformation. It's like he just drinks the werewolf juice, and then like it cuts to he's now a full werewolf.
No, he doesn't want stages. He doesn't want bladder work. He was like, I'm gonna get in the chair for one time. Make me werewolf. And then I'll growl at the camera, and then I'll get out of it.
I did not know you could do such a good Ozzy Osbourne. I'm impressed.
Neither did I. This is off the cuff, baby. What I like the most about it is it looks like the hair's coming out of his actual skin on his body, which I think is very hard to do. And I don't believe it's applied to his actual skin. I think he's in some sort of werewolf suit, but they've done it so well that it's probably one of my favorite werewolf looks. I think it's interesting.
I'm just picturing him like just passed out cold in the makeup chair while they're like applying each individual hair on his torso.
He's just
a mouth hanging open.
We are mere years away, single-digit years away from him being passed out by a pool for the decline of Western civilization too. So, like, I think you're absolutely right. He is in an absolute whiskey haze,
which is interesting because he's like really hamming it up. And I mean, this is not a lazy performance. This is not a, and that's why I think the video has a lot of, charm and interest to it, because like, it wasn't like they put him in this makeup and then just kind of just shoved him in front of the camera and he just sort of stands there. He's really getting into it.
But I also think they paired the monster with the man.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah,
he's used to bugging out on stage for an entire stadium full of people. So he's always playing to the back rafters.
Right. And I think the idea you're supposed to, the takeaway is this is actually him. Yes. And that it's the, the human version. That's the persona he slips into. I stand by this. I think that's what he's trying to say.
I love this.
Is that him as the werewolf? That's really him.
Yeah, what he would prefer to be.
Right, the human face is what he puts on to deal with the rest of the world.
And I think part of what sells that is, and what I did not remember, is that this specific era of metal for Ozzy is about 2 steps away from George Michael. If you put this up against Wake Me Up Before You Go, their hairdos are not entirely different. They are closer than they are farther apart.
Well, this is also the era where you have that great picture of him and Sharon when I think their oldest kid was born, and they're like wearing matching outfits. And it looks like something you would have gotten at like it looks like something you wear for like a family portrait at Kmart. And he's absolutely like I don't want to say neutered, because I'm not one of those people that thinks that like if you get married or whatever, all of a sudden you're like, you're emasculated or whatever. But like he's very toned down, and I had to assume that his most ardent fans were like, what the fuck is this? Sharon must have made him do this, but yeah, this is from that same era, and I know what you're talking about, the hair and all.
Yeah, I think it was of the time. It was
it's basically
people with a lot of money in Britain had at that moment.
Yeah,
Lady Diana has this fucking hair.
Yeah, it's sort of a combination Dorothy Hamill haircut and like a mullet.
Yes. It is as rock and roll as it gets. It is as full in the back as it is up front. But if you were to, and they kind of comb it a little bit differently as he's this button-up scientist, and you're like, oh, you look like a member of Wham. You look like the most distaff member of Wham.
You're like the member of Wham we don't talk about.
And I just think that is what Tony, people with money in Britain at the time, you went to a place that gave you posh haircuts. That's what you fucking got. And so it's just weird that they're not entirely different. They are more the same than they are different. Anyways, in the plot of this story, let's put that in dick fingers, Dr. Werewolf, back in his human form, is hauled off to the Institute for Scientists who transform good and want to transform into other things good. And all this on the word of that one lady, which is kind of refreshing, honestly. She's like, he turned into a fucking werewolf, and society was like, well, let's give him electroshock therapy.
Sure.
If you say so, we buy what you're selling.
Yeah, the first time you tell me that guy thinks he's a werewolf, off to the electroshock therapy room you go.
And so, I get putting him in a padded room, like his claws will enjoy that. It's like a cat toy for him. But then they just immediately start zapping his brain with electricity. And at the point where they just turn up the knobs and his fangs pop out, none of these doctors look at this and say, well, maybe this guy had a thing going with that formula. Like his teeth transformed into werewolf's teeth. That's something, right? That doesn't just happen when you put electricity through a body. He went through a chemical process.
We changed him at a molecular level.
Are there other people at this institute? They give electroshock therapy and they produce werewolf teeth. I don't know. We don't see anyone else there.
I mean, we had this other guy. He grew antlers, but I didn't really think anything out except, that was weird.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't start with antlers and he didn't end with antlers because we cut them off. But antlers were produced and reproduced over and over again until we were just full of fucking antlers. Here's another thing that came to mind during the many random images shown during this music video. I think the reason so many of us turned away from using carriages as transportation is that I don't want to shop for new hats for my horses. I want to shop for hats for any of a horse. Nevertheless, the several hats you would need for a carriage full of horses.
Do you think that you can go to a normal haberdasher for a hat for your horse, or do you think you need to go to a horse haberdasher? Boy, I have to say that really slowly.
I assume this is a racket somebody made for this.
A hash haberdasher.
A hash haberdasher. Do you have horses? Do you want them to look fancy? Why not hats? Hats for horses. Do you want your horses to look like ladies in a nightclub who show their gams? I make those hats for horses.
Do you want a smart top hat for your horse? We have those too.
I don't want to change the hats on my horses. Horses don't like me. And the last thing I want to do is engage in putting hats on.
It's getting close enough to put a hat on a horse.
And several, like swinging that, like
I think that if you were
Russian roulette of which of these horses is gonna fucking kick me.
I feel if you were wealthy enough to have your own carriage with your own team of 2 to 4 horses to take you around, you probably would not be putting horses on your own hat. Jesus. Putting hats on your own horses.
Horses on my own hats. For that
I feel like that would be like someone's specific job at your country estate is to horse that's the horses.
Right. And yet, because we have eliminated these things, now those are jobs and industries that have gone out of fashion. And so we have to, reconnoiter with that problem within capitalism that is just eating its own tail.
Nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to put hats on horses.
Nobody wants to put hats on horses, no matter how much I scream at them. And listen, Gene, I've owned several cars at this point in my life, but I've never purchased a hat for one of them. And it saves me so much time and money.
That's just smart money. That's just a smart money tip. Don't buy a hat for your car.
I can't own a house. I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me in retirement. I can't pay off my school loans. Stop putting hats on your horses, motherfucker.
Yeah,
you might find at the end of the day you have enough money to get by.
You look at millennial. You look at millennial budgeting. The top 2 things: avocado toast, hats for horses.
You're constantly doffing a cap on your Palominos.
Listen. I know that on the TikTok, it's a big trend for you to get a hat for your horse. But for once, don't worry about the trends.
Listen, I can dance like that pimp named Slickback and look at this hat on my horse. I'm sick of looking at it. I'm done. It's my TikTok rant.
And our hats on horses rant.
Yes. I didn't really think we could make 5 minutes out of that, but I'm very
Baby,
proud.
We can make 5 minutes out of anything.
So here's the other thing that I noticed is that this movie. It's a mini movie. It's one of the, I would say it's one of the most memorable. I don't want to know if I use the word iconic, but certainly of the mid 80s, we're kind of working on an interesting transition of videos here for this segment of the show. Cause we started with the videos that were just literal interpretations of the lyrics. Yeah.
Now we're getting into, this could be an art form. And this was post-Thriller, yes? Or roughly around the same time?
Same year. Okay. 1983.
So that was a turning point when, this is an art form. These are little movies. So, let's try
for something.
Right. We're not showing just someone performing. We're not just showing, you mentioned a whip and it shows somebody holding a whip. This is now, we're making little movies here. And this is a little movie. It's not a coherent little movie, but they're trying to make it a little movie.
They're trying to tell a little story. But in between, they are filling some of the gaps in between the bricks of story with the grout of looking at Ozzy Osbourne's keyboardist, fucking Viv Savage over here. And he's got 3 keyboards on stands, like 2 stacked up together and then one just on its lonesome. But he also has a goddamn guitar strapped on. Like,
it's a busy
you've
man.
only got 2 hands, my guy.
That is multitasking right there.
There's no way. You need all 4 of those motherfucking keyboards. You can just change the sound on one Yamaha DX7. You don't need 13 of them. It's fine.
Yeah, you've got the like cuts to the band scowling at the camera. You've got the drummer doing the holding up the stick next to his face shot, which was like a big thing. Like I think every heavy metal video was required to have that shot.
If you want to look deeply into the eyes of Ozzy Osbourne's replacement drummer, Carmine Appice, have I got good news for you, because he will stare at your ass for an unbroken 10 seconds. And you're like, what am I getting out of this? Like, he's not hot. So if he was at least hot, I could look at a hot person. But he's just a guy with a fucking mustache and way too much hair, spinning a stick around like I'm impressed by that shit, and just death staring me for 10 goddamn seconds. And I just couldn't wait for it to be fucking over. That is what kind of like is taking up time in between werewolf shots
and between guitar solos.
Right.
But one thing I do appreciate about late 70s, early 80s heavy metal though is you did not need a face to do it. Now, of course, with the era of like bands like Poison, where they were, some beautiful ladies from Pennsylvania decide they're going to play some heavy hard rockin' tunes for you.
Yeah.
You could have a mug on you to be in a heavy metal band, and you're still going to have groupies and fans and all. You didn't need to have like $1 million looks. And so I appreciate that aspect of heavy metal.
Yes, I think it evolves over time because as more music videos get made, the more apparent it is that if you just hire any schmo who happens to know how to drum to be a drummer, you're going to end up having to show him on camera.
Right.
And then you're looking at him and you're like, we need someone who's not named Carmine who looks good.
then you end up with like the video for Journey Separate Ways, where basically if you watch it now, you do that whole John Mulaney, oh, they're ugly.
Oh, they don't even know it. They don't know how ugly they are, because when you go up on stage, you're just a blurry guy with a lot of hair.
Right. Or the infamous when Kiss did the video without makeup. And it's like, put it back on.
Yes. And
listen, they did.
And they did. They put that shit right back on. If anyone knows what Kiss music video they would like us to cover,
I feel like we could do Lick It Up, which is the one without the makeup, because that's got like a post-apocalyptic setting to it. So I mean, it's not horror, but we could do it.
But also, it doesn't revive their career. Like, their career is kind of dead in the sense that they're headed towards county fairs, and they're like, well, what if we don't put makeup on? And then people see them without makeup, and everyone yells in unison, "My God, please put makeup back on."
Let me say this by 100% admitting that if I base my entire musical career on wearing makeup, and then I took my makeup off, I would fully expect people to say, "Put it back on."
Like, a lot of thought went into that look. It's not like we, like the Juicy Fruits a lot better than when they start putting on black and white makeup. And fan of the Paradise. Remember when we talked about Fan of the Paradise? I
do, and nothing gives me more pleasure than watching people still watch it for the first time now.
It is.
I had a Facebook friend who just watched it for the first time, and later he posted, "Why didn't anybody tell me I was going to be watching my favorite movie of all time?"
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like a recipe for this is going to blow your mind. You're going to join a cult, but at the end of it, if you're the right person, if 100% of the time it works, 60% of the time. So let's get back to Dr. Werewolf. Because his time in the loony bin has managed to kill him from what we understand.
Yeah, I thought shot in the coffin he was also going to be a Dracula, but apparently not. He's just dead.
No. And we have to come up with a word to describe the acting style in these types of music videos, Gina, because as Ozzy is in his coffin, the priest who's giving him the last rites is communicating while giving the cross. Like, it's just, is your boss in the room? Why are you going so hard on these last rites?
Well, I do think that this is an homage to Hammer horror. And of course, everybody you acted very broadly in those movies. Right. So I think that's I think that's just what he's doing, is just kind of doing a take on these like these actors who were trained in Shakespearean theater and then now they're starring in a movie called Taste the Blood of Dracula.
Right. They have a tax debt they have to pay off.
Exactly.
Like, all right. Listen, if I'm going to get trapped on this end of Europe for this long, I'm really going to go for it when I get the chance to be on camera. Meanwhile, wifey / assistant is alternatively weeping and crushing petals of a rose and throwing them inside this open ass coffin. I assume because the corpse smells like singed dog food. And then his corpse instantly melts into a mostly eaten half rack of ribs level of skeleton.
I hope I go that fast.
He rots soups fast, like almost as if he's allergic to those rose petals. And then they have a funeral that should be rained out. Like there's too much rain happening here. When people lean down, rivers of water come off their giant top hats. And someone just needs to yell at Bernie Fufkin to turn down the fucking hose already.
I love how you can't resist dropping in Spinal Tap references.
I'm only as God made me, Gina.
You kind of you can't really. You
when it
can't
comes
not.
to heavy metal. I'm only a this is.
Yeah, you can't not. You can't not say it. It's impossible.
No, that movie's fucking brilliant. Every part of it is brilliant. I don't think it was designed to be brilliant. I thought it was going to be a fun lark. And it just so happens there are no down moments in that movie.
No.
There just aren't. Every part of it is finely honed gold. And now what I found confusing was did a part of him die in the electroshock thing? And because he's alive again very shortly after the following guitar solo.
Right. And he leaves with his good wife. And he's in a dream state there for a while before he reconvenes with his assistant wife, where he opens up a poltergeist door, and then we see him open up 3 other, like, you will believe that Ozzy Osbourne knows how to operate a door by the end of this music video. And all of them contain a big light source. And he's like, at them. And I don't know why. Is he in purgatory? Because he's alive at the end of this fucking thing. Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, I guess as they sort of, choose the road you're going to walk. Do you want to be, a man? Do you want to be a Mr. Hyde? Or do you want to be, a Dr. Werewolf? And I guess he chooses a man.
I get, like, he's just wandering around a bunch of open doors at one point, and I get it. He wants to stay in the hallway. This movie is I keep calling it a movie. This music video is barely 4 minutes long.
And again, it's mostly guitar solo.
It runs out of story at the 2.5 minute mark. They just didn't think it through. There needs to be other levels to this. You need other places for it to go. And then at one point, Ozzy is walking around a basement, and he appears to have forgotten how to walk normally. And that can't be good. And then behind him is now Shaggy Werewolf, who's chasing Ozzy around like Freddy Krueger's boiler room sort of situation. And you're kind of like, where did all these pipes come from? And someone, like some producer has to have gone, I'm sorry, Ozzy, but this looks a little modern to me. He's like, I just put some candles down there. He's passed out. Put some candles around. When he wakes up, we'll have him run from himself. And the entire back section of Dr. Werewolf feels like it was directed by Austin Powers and his photographer guys. It's just like, run around. Nah, hot. You're hot. You're hot. You're too hot. You're too hot. It doesn't make any sense. He's just like growling and eye fucking the camera. And you're like, okay, I saw that shot. And that's like it for an entire minute because they have a whole other set of guitar solos to go through.
Yeah, I mean, basically, most of this werewolf stuff is just illustrating the endless guitar solos.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Perhaps the funeral in the basement were metaphors, as you pointed out. Perhaps he should be the werewolf, but is cured by modern scientists to be a man. And so he's escorted out of the gates back to his assistant /snitch /wife. And the werewolf is on a balcony.
Yeah. I'm like, does that mean that like they're now split into two different, beings, or
they're two different personas?
Or he's kind of acknowledging like, yeah, I know you're there. He
gives a look at the camera like that was one wild weekend. And you're like, you are a werewolf, motherfucker. You can't just shrug that shit off. You drank a formula. You turned into a creature. You had electrical current put through you. You separated as individuals. It chased you around the basement, and you're like, man, that was one crazy Saturday night. This is not a solution. This is not a story, everyone. Now, Gina, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Did this location seem familiar to you?
I mean, it didn't jump out at me, but I would not be terribly surprised to learn that it has been used for similar types of movies.
Not only has it been used for other movies, it's been used for other music videos. This was, of course, used in the Adam Ant music video for Goody Two Shoes. With Slaughter High Star.
Yes, that's like, wasn't that was also for Slaughter High, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, this is Holloway Sanitarium.
Yeah, because I remember you mentioned, because when you said Goody Two Shoes, like, wait a minute, he mentioned that for something else.
Yes, we're back at Holloway Sanitarium. We're never leaving this place. When we die, this is what we're going to have to be forced to watch.
We too are Dr. Werewolves.
Like, we've covered a lot of movies and pieces of media on this podcast, but we might be covering this more than we do LA locations. Holloway Sanitarium. We need to stop picking pieces of media that use Holloway fucking Sanitarium. I'm sick of looking at the walls. I'm sick of looking at the hallways. I do enjoy the inexplicable high school baths that are available to people, but it's too much Holloway Sanitarium for my tastes. There are no real deaths here because the werewolf doesn't actually kill anybody. So we can't play Choose Your Own Death Venture. So what I think the game we're going to play is, how bad are the producers of the Scream franchise fucking up right now?
I mean, are you going to give me a choice? Because I feel like the choices would be unbelievably bad or ridiculously bad.
Yes. I mean, Zach, who was on our show once upon a time, wrote on social media, it's hard to believe that you can call Spyglass the second worst producers of the Scream franchise. But considering who was number one, they are oddly number two, but they are a strong number two. It is so fucking infuriating how badly they are fucking this up. When things were finally going well, we're going to have a repeat of Scream 3. It's going to happen. We're one bad haircut away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to find that they're going to make some labored explanation as to why we bring Sydney back. I mean, I guess they're going to just kill off the two sister characters off screen, which is, you know, always the pussy's way out of something like this. Yeah, you know, I'd be curious as to figure out what sort of plot contrivance is going to bring Sydney and the new characters from the last two movies together. Because I mean,
well, they're talking
getting rid of them,
wiping the slate,
getting rid of them too. I see. Okay,
get rid of them too because they would have to pay them. Here's my secret belief here. A quick, side tangent. My secret belief here is that Spyglass does not want to pay anyone third film money because this is when you get to the point where you got them cheap, but now as the franchise continues to bring them back, you have to pay them their contracted rate, which is if they have good agents, they've bumped their rates up. And you have one of the hottest stars in the world right now who you happen to luck into casting. And so she's going to be making a whole shit ton of money. And I just feel like this is an excuse to wipe the table with the entire thing, figuring we can just put anybody in a Scream movie and people will fucking show up. And they were not anticipating the level of vitriol they got back because they didn't think it would be controversial to fire somebody for saying, hey, I don't think people should be slaughtered indiscriminately.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that they saw that as a golden opportunity? They'd already been thinking about how they could do a reset button, and they just saw this Melissa Barrera's comments as a golden opportunity to take advantage of, or do you think that's kind of just triggered you like fuck it, let's just start the whole thing over again?
I think you have people who are bad at business and certainly do not understand the undercurrent of the current iteration of Scream's fan base and I don't know what they believe. But I don't know why once you fire Melissa Barrera, I don't know why anyone from the current iteration of it would ever go, but I want to come back. Fuck you. Fuck you. And so, when you have her sister from the movie say, oh, I'm not going to come back. And she was going to have limited availability because of Wednesday. So she was barely going to come back. We were already going to have a Scream 3 situation where she was going to be available for mere days compared to weeks of everyone else. So it's already fucked. She obviously, when you don't have an actual production schedule, you can't say you have scheduling conflicts.
Right.
That is not an excuse. That does not work. That math ain't mathin'. So you saw an opportunity to cut those paychecks out of your budget and pour it back into trying to get Neve Campbell back into the franchise when you gave her the best exit off of the fucking Scream train.
It's like it would be enough to please everybody. You didn't kill her off. You gave her a excuse to not be there that made sense. She doesn't want to. She doesn't want to do it. She doesn't want to do it anymore. It doesn't involve,
and she doesn't have
right. It doesn't involve her anymore, so she's not going to get involved.
Right. Whereas you can always have Courtney Cox flit through as like, I'm covering this from afar.
Yeah, Gail gets involved in these things because she wants to, not because she has to.
Right. She is not a target. She is someone who is addicted to being a part of the franchise. It's different as a character. And that shows to me that they don't understand the movies that were written and directed by other people.
Yeah. And here's what I predict that they're going to reap, if they manage to get Neve Campbell back. And I hope she doesn't come back. I hope she says no. And then they really find themselves scrambling around to figure out how they're going to, what they're going to do with this. Is they're probably going to age up her child to like high school age. And now it's going to be, someone stalking the daughter, and who could possibly give a fuck at this point?
Yeah.
It's going to be more, it's a relative, it's a cousin of this person, it's a long lost child of this person, which they have done already.
Yes. I don't quite understand it.
I'm going to make a controversial admission about the Scream movie, the new Scream movies. Didn't really like the whole, she's Billy's long lost daughter thing. I think, I thought it was contrived. But, at least it made, but you can't keep, and even if it really worked for me, you can't keep, relying on that over and over and over again. Right.
I agree with you. I enjoy, and we've talked about it at length. I enjoy it more as a internal struggle within it to not sort of clear Billy's culpability here, but that she's born out of us into a situation that she absolutely cannot control, and she has to deal with it. And then she's given this set of circumstances that might send anyone over the edge. And I think that's an interesting character arc for that character. And I like how it turns out. But I don't think you have to constantly go back to the well of it all returning back to that individual moment thing. If you've shown that you can do more with it, why constantly have it eat its own tail is my guess. But I don't want Neve Campbell's daughter to be involved.
I mean, again, I'm completely...
I don't want Neve Campbell to be involved, but I want her to earn money and everything, but I feel like it's a fucking pair of golden handcuffs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speculating, but I feel like that would be the most obvious path they would take if they bring back Neve Campbell's character.
Whereas I feel the way you could do something like Scream 7, if you wanted to completely divorce yourself of the franchise at all, but evoke the original Scream 3, is to actually do the plot points of Scream 3 in the same but different way, in which it is somebody trying to do the internal franchise within Scream. What is that? Stab. They're trying to do Stab. And someone is killing people within the franchise of Stab. That would work. That would be an internal thing, which is part of the lore of the world of Scream, but not having to worry about it being connected to Scream necessarily. It's almost a Stab offshoot. It's a detour. It's a sidequel to Scream. But I also don't want to give these fuckwuts any ideas, because I just feel like this whole thing is fucking doomed, and I cannot support what they've done here.
No.
I just don't think you can. If what you're doing is advocating for people who are not responsible for what a terrorist organization did, and I'm sorry. It's just fucking infuriating. You can pointedly say, I don't like what this government is doing. There are many times we don't like what our government is fucking doing. And I can say that currently. And to say that is my freedom of speech. I don't like this. I hired these people by my vote, and I don't like how they're working under my name and guise. That is not anti-Semitism by any stretch, means, or bounds. And it fucking lessens the bar of what real anti-Semitism is. A real thing that real people have to deal with on a daily fucking basis. It is goddamn infuriating. And we finally get Christopher Landon in to direct a goddamn Scream movie. And this is what you fucking leave.
And the best thing is for them, at least, that if it ends up flopping or underperforming as compared to the last two movies, guess who takes the fall for that?
He's getting the glass cliff. He's getting the glass cliff. He's been forced into a fucking situation that's no goddamn win, because you've alienated a large portion of the original audience just by not doing the same fucking thing over and over and over again. And then the new audience you've gained who like this new iteration of it do not want to support Spyglass Entertainment. And as a result, they're not going to show up. And I love Christopher Landon movies. I think he's a real fucking talent. I even like We Have a Ghost. I think that was a good fucking movie. And I cannot in good conscience walk into a theater and pay money for this shit. I don't even want to talk about Thanksgiving, because that's Spyglass too. I'm not going to support Spyglass. This shit does not work for me.
Yeah, no, I it's just it shows such a lack of foresight and a lack of understanding your audience. The Scream movies, the new Scream movies, the audience is skewing younger because the actors are younger.
And that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted to do.
And younger people, have, their opinions, skewed towards being, as they should, pro, not killing children.
Right. Just an anti-genocide as a
regardless
stance
of whether or not they've been, quote unquote, trained by Hamas or not. So they are shooting themselves in the foot. It felt like an extremely rash decision to fire her. So I can only assume it came from, the order came from one person. And I hope that I genuinely hope that if they realize the error of their ways and ask her to come back, she says no. And I hope Neve Campbell says no. I hope they're left.
I think you have to leave it fallow and salt the goddamn earth.
I mean, my political stance on the whole thing is I like it when as little people die as possible. And that shouldn't be like what do you mean? That's extremely anti-Semitic. It's like, is it?
Is it? We need to redefine it then. And it probably should not be redefined. Not when it was so perfectly defined by people's actions leading up to this fucking point.
Yeah, it's just I don't think that everybody should be, particularly famous people, should be, put on the spot and told what their demand that they have a statement about it. But at the same time, it's like, don't ask them, and then when they tell you what their opinion is, be like, well, what? How could you say such a thing? Well, it's like well, then why don't you tell me what you want me to say?
Right. Like, what is the acceptable reaction to seeing footage of small children in the rubble of a blown up hospital? I'm supposed to like it? That's supposed to be something that I'm happy about? I come on. This is fucking insane. It just feels like the world's being ratcheted up again for a bunch of shit. And I don't like it.
No, I feel like for the past decade, we've just been on like constant high alert. And I honestly don't know how we're not just constantly running in circles and screaming.
It does not feel good to me. And this shit is supposed to be an escape, a reflection of what I fear, but done in an entertaining way that allows me to exercise those fears. And we would, under many circumstances, would probably cover Scream 7. Obviously, we've covered all the other movies. We shan't be, I won't be covering. Not so long as it's under the auspices of Spyglass Entertainment.
Yeah, in the unlikely event that it gets sold to another production company, we just have to see. I mean, we have to see what they're what sort of contrived reset button they're going to hit, whether it's just going to be a whole new, I mean, best case scenario, if they they're not going to use any of the current characters, it's just started over a completely unrelated story. I mean, they've already established that there is a sort of cult of Ghostface. So, you could make it so that somebody else, completely unrelated to Sydney, completely unrelated to Billy or any of the characters in the original movies, is just going out and doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't make a fan service if you're not bringing back characters the fans like.
Yeah. Just make new characters that fans like. And that's the thing. I felt like they had done that. And that's pretty impossible to do. It's hard to do that. But they made new characters that I enjoyed watching. That in my first meeting of them, I might have been resistant to them and they win me over. That's a nice magic trick. And you fuck that up, it tells me you don't like this franchise. You don't like the entertainment business. And
it's my least favorite. It smacks of my least favorite attitude of horror filmmakers in general. I mentioned it before, but the idea of you assholes will watch whatever we put out.
Yes, it absolutely does. So my apologies to Christopher Landon, a director who I genuinely like, and I like his output. I think we should cover Happy Death Days, both of them, and Freaky. I think they're great movies. And I'll do that over supporting Scream 7. It's not his fault. Don't yell at him on social media. He was a person hired to do a job. He's not doing the hiring.
He's not behind these decisions.
No. Get off his ass. So that's boy, when you have a dream, someone fucks it up for you. It's a special kind of hell. So that's what's happening there. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Kill the Rock Star and our coverage.
We had some werewolf juice, and then we had we had some rant juice.
We did. It's a kind of a combo. But that'll do it for this week. Next week, we'll be back. We're going to go to a place we've invoked many times, but rarely discussed. That's right. We're going to start talking vampires now that we've talked Deadites for our second main franchise of this season 5. We'll be talking about 1931's Dracula, the Universal Studios original, the movie that started it all, baby. And what a time that will be for a film that barely moves the camera. Lot to talk about. And not much about the movie itself, though. It'll be an interesting episode. We'll see what comes of it. But much to discuss with 1931's Dracula. But until then, Gina, where can people find you on these here?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. I have a Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on Blue Sky and Instagram and TikTok under Gina Watches Things.
Find us on your socials under Kill by Kill Pod. Find our Patreon for more fun stuff, bonus episodes. We talked about over Night Train to Terror, the thing that everyone demanded.
And we had the time of our lives.
Just an absolute in a recorded acid trip is what that is. And we do lots of fun stuff beyond that there. Rate and review us on iTunes or wherever your podcatcher of choice is. Give us 5 stars and tell us a kill that you loved in a movie we covered or not covered. Give us your opinions. We'd love to hear them. Helps us be seen and heard by more people. Josh Hollis does our artwork. This theme And all the other things by Revenge Body. Go to RevengeBodyMemphis at bandcamp.com. Until next time, folks, the body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.